The Nerd and Tie podcast is, unsurprisingly, a part of the Nerd and Tie podcast network. For more podcasts from actual play to true crime to witchcraft, go to nerdandtie.com. Or you can join our Discord by finding an invite at nerdandtie.com/discord. Did you know you could sponsor Nerd and Tie? That's right. For just $20, we'd say your name here. We'd say how great we think you are, and we'd tell you how you look kicking in those jeans. Just go to nerdandtie.com and click on the Sponsor Us button on the website. That's what the button is for. If you didn't know, if you saw that button, we're like, what is that button for? That's what that button is for. On this episode of Nerd and Tie, something's gonna happen. Probably. Maybe. We might talk about things. I'm sure Trigun's going to come up. Maybe Tetris. I don't know. Stuff. All that and more. Plus other stuff on this month's episode of Nerd and Tie. Welcome to Nerd and Tie, the only podcast on the internet with a dress code. I'm one of your hosts, Trae Dorn. Joining me, as always, are Celeste Startwin.
That's me.
And nobody else this month because Gen's doing stuff. We needed to record the March episode, but Gen's out unavailable the whole last week of March. So
we are Genless. We are without Gen, and I'm heartbroken over it.
Yeah. So you just get Trae Dorn and Celeste Startwin present this thing.
Whatever
it
has not been a big. I feel like it hasn't been a big last couple of months for. Yeah. Or last month or so for for the nerd scene. I don't know about you. I've mentioned on the show before, I just haven't really gone to movie theaters, so I haven't seen Shazam. I haven't seen Ant-Man.
Yeah, same. I'm so bad. Well, here's the thing: is it's like, okay, so if 3 years ago this month we did the big Nerd and Tie network show where we brought in people from a bunch of other shows because of COVID, because we didn't have any convention news to talk about because the pandemic had started, and
That's awesome.
I feel like it's like I still have yet to reach the point where I'm comfortable going into a movie theater. It just has not happened, and we're about a month too early for the drive-in to have started. Once the drive-in opens up, I'm going to be going to movies. I'm going to go to every movie I can, but we're not there yet. I haven't seen Dungeons and Dragons yet. I want to.
I'm actually considering that's one where I'm legit considering using because I've been really busting tail at work lately. I've been thinking about using a vacation day, and my wife and I could just go to the matinee for Dungeons and Dragons because I actually want to see that. That looks really fun.
Do your local theaters have matinees during not during the summer?
They do. They have matinees, or at least they did before COVID. I haven't really checked recently, but that's how I saw the movie Bumblebee. Was I went to a matinee and I was one of 4 people in the theater, and now I watch that movie too often.
I just remember growing up, a lot of the theaters didn't do matinees during the week, not when it wasn't the summer.
I don't know what it is. In Janesville, we live in the one theater we have has them.
Well, we live in the modern age where you can check showings online, so it's not back in the day when we had to I once showed up to a theater and they didn't have a matinee during the week, and was very disappointed. But it was that was the 90s where you would either have to call the theater, or usually what you did is you looked at the newspaper listings, and you if you wanted to know what was playing in the movie theaters, you'd go grab the newspaper and find the ads where they would show what was playing at the movie theaters.
Well, I think
that's the world I grew up in, and so
I think I mentioned previously that I have gone to a theater in recent memory, but it's been going up to Madison and seeing foreign films, and mostly Japanese films, and the one that had the largest actual audience in it, which, much to my surprise, was Shin Ultraman.
Hmm.
That actually had a pretty decently full theater. I mean, granted, it was, uh, the creator of Evangelion and his longtime co-conspirator Shinji Higachi giving Ultraman the Shin Godzilla treatment.
Yeah.
So that was really an amazing movie. I'm really glad I got to see it. But yeah, aside from that, I've largely been like avoiding the theater as well, except for, like I said, my occasional foreign films, and even then, uh, I saw the most recent Dragon Ball film in theaters, but I went to see it in Japanese, partly because I don't care for the English dub, and also because
You knew it would be
um
the less people there, fewer
there
people
I
there.
knew there would be less people there because I am in the vast minority of the Dragon Ball fandom, in at least in America, that does not like the English version at all. It's I swear to God, Dragon Ball is the only modern anime fandom where the fans don't just prefer the bad translation, but actively ask for a bad translation. It's infuriating.
You know, aren't haven't you met multiple members of the Dragon Ball cast
I have
over the
lot.
years?
They're lovely people.
They
I
are.
I I feel bad saying that, but like, guess what? Doesn't change the fact that it is a there are some very talented people who have been given garbage
Oh
scripts
my
for
God.
years.
You are so lucky that we are not popular enough for any of them to hear you say
I know, I know, I recognize that. No, like I no, it. I mean, I don't want to like name drop, but everyone I've met from that dub are like the nicest freaking people. Really, I mean that completely sincerely. Um, Aside from like the one who stepped up for
that.
Vic Mignogna and got into some QAnon stuff. Um,
Oh,
he
yeah.
voiced Android 17. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
God.
He's also the good. Oh, who am I kidding? I can't. I can't not give credit to where credit is due. Not to the man who, when asked to in the Vic Mignogna trials, his best defense for his friend was Vic Mignogna's not a pervert. He's a sex addict.
I forgot about that.
I will never forget that.
I forgot about that.
That is the greatest defense anyone has ever given a sex
I'm
pest.
just like, yeah. Oh,
I
wow. Just,
both of those people I just mentioned are guesting at a convention at a middle school very soon. So that's exciting.
oh
Boy, oh
no.
boy.
I feel like that's
No, really.
worse. That's so bad.
Yeah, no, it's very bad. No, Vic
Vic's preferred
Mignogna and
audience.
yeah, Vic's preferred audience. Vic Mignogna and Chuck Huber are going to be at a convention at a middle school. I found out about that from the Twitter account of Mars Girl, who's just
I haven't been on Twitter in months.
I I don't know what's wrong with me. I have a I keep using this goddamn bird site, despite the fact that it's owned by a literal turd
With fake hair.
with fake hair. Like, that's like the least terrible thing I could say about him, though. Like, I
Yeah, it's anything you ever see on my Twitter account is probably automated at this point. It's although my Tumblr no longer posts to my Twitter because Tumblr turned off their auto Twitter posts because Twitter did their whole API thing.
yeah, well, I think Tumblr was in the right. I honestly do. I
Yeah, no, it's Tumblr is my primary social network now. That is where I'm pretty much spending my time.
I have been back on Tumblr. I mean, people may have noticed.
I did.
Yeah,
You don't
like
post that much.
you know, yeah, I don't post too much, but you know, I mostly, you know, it's largely fate stuff, Kunihiko Ikuhara appreciation, the occasional classic anime love or in jokes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anything about Bridget from Guilty Gear. That's mostly what I've been doing with Tumblr lately.
Yeah. No, it's God. What were we even talking about?
It started with my saying mean things about the Dragon Ball dub.
Oh yeah,
Because
that's right. Oh yeah, I was talking about how I don't go to movies.
yeah,
Um
it's not going to movies.
yeah, it's I don't know, the movie I'm most excited but it means like every time there's a really good streaming movie, I get really excited about it. Like
Same.
during the winter, like I'm super hyped for the Tetris movie, which is coming out on Friday on Apple TV Plus.
Why does that look so good?
I don't. You
Seriously,
do
it
remember
looks
we
so
made
good.
fun of that on this show when
We
that
did.
we did. It's I gotta look it up. When did we make fun of that? Because like it was not.
announced
It was
so
not.
long.
It was not clear that that movie was. Maybe we made fun of it on this. It yeah. They're making. God, they originally wanted to make a trilogy. 2016. 2016. I think there was the Mega Blog. Wait, I don't think we actually talked about it on the show. Or maybe we did. Yeah, in 2016. I think we might have talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it on like episode. We first talked about it on the We first talked about it back in episode 31 in 2014.
Wow.
And then it came up again in 2016. Like this goes back to like we were, oh boy. So yeah, we've been talking about like there's some because and it's because everyone thought it was going to be like somehow trying. You know, when you hear a movie based off a video game, you think it's going to be like a video game movie. You know, like Uncharted or something like that. And
Right,
it's like, what are they going to do? No, it's because they didn't make a movie like a Tetris. They made a movie about the creation of the game and the crazy licensing story.
Which honestly, that sounds excellent to me.
That
sounds really exciting.
God, I'm looking through these old news posts. Apparently, they wanted to make a trilogy at one point. I don't think that's happening. This is.
Yeah, I for all we know, like I don't like. I'm really glad that we're getting the movie that this looks like. But for all we know, maybe back in 2016, that actually was the plan to try to make a story out of Arrange the Blocks. We don't. I mean, pre-production processes on movies have been weirder.
Yeah, it's. Yeah,
Ghostbusters was a movie about time travel at one point. Like,
okay, so actually, like this was originally a sci-fi. Like the production was originally Untitled Tetris Sci-Fi Project.
Okay, yeah.
So we're not crazy. We're not crazy. The Tetris movie was originally going to be, like the original pitches with the rights for Tetris, the Tetris film rights were, okay. I feel less crazy. Like now I'm trying to figure out, was this connected to the original like Tetris movie rights project? Like that's what I have to find out. Because this whole thing is crazy. Okay, so yeah, this has got to be a separate project, like than the sci-fi movie, because this one was announced in like 2020.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this has got. Yeah. Yeah, because the original plans were all a sci-fi movie that the claims that the film was going to be shot in China in 2017 with an $80 million budget. Although no 2017 or later sources confirm that the film actually went into production.
Okay.
And so yes, it's got to be completely separate. It's a completely unrelated development and project. Who? Because I will tell you, when I saw the trailer for the Tetris movie, I was like, wait, is this what they've been trying to make for years? Because this would act like, I'm like, oh, well, I get this as a movie, but it appears that they're unrelated projects.
Okay.
That's less exciting, but also, like, at least I'm relieved that, like, because I was reading these old articles that I wrote, because, back when we did the Mega Blog, when we used to do, like, daily news articles, I was so negative on the entire idea of a Tetris movie. Like, the headlines are things like, it's not a joke, the Tetris movie is coming. Reminder, they're still making a Tetris movie. And it gets worse, they're making a trilogy of Tetris movies, because that was the last news story that we saw.
To be fair to you, though, what the pitch for the sci-fi movie is still a stupid idea.
Yeah, it is. Well, no, the best part is that actually there's this really funny fake trail. There have been like multiple fake Tetris the movie trailers made over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think the black20.com one is the funnier one. But if you go back in our archives, back there, the October 1st, 2014 article, It's Not a Joke, the Tetris movie is coming. I think I linked in a couple of different fake trailers that had been around for like the beginnings of YouTube. Because there have been so many fake Tetris the movie trailers. So, yeah. Yeah. So I am excited for that. I'm excited for but it's going to be streaming, cuz so like I'll actually get to watch it. Like, cuz I've been keeping up with the Marvel movies, but I haven't watched Ant-Man yet because I haven't watched them until they come to streaming. So like I've seen Wakanda Forever, but I haven't seen Ant-Man yet.
Right. Same.
So like that's why I'm looking forward to the summer, cuz we're going to get some nice weather. I'm going to get to take the new truck up to the drive-in. And, my wife and I will, like, start seeing movies most weekends, at the drive-in. It's fun.
Hard agree. Yeah. I don't know, it's been... I guess I've been having, movies in general, it's been harder for me to get enthused about going to theaters other than for those weird, like, unique experiences, I guess. I've been on a lot more of a TV kick lately, I guess.
Okay.
I did, following up on our last episode, I did catch up with Picard.
Oh.
And by catch up, I mean I actually just skipped season 2 entirely, and I didn't actually finish season 1. Season 3 seemed like fun, so I just went straight to that.
It is. I like the rest of season 1, and I like season 2.
It's not that there might be a point where I'll go back to it, but I wanted something that I could enjoy with my partner, with my spouse, and season 1 she just found boring, and everything I'd been seeing about season 3 just looked like it tripped my trigger.
Well, in season 3, like the thing about the show is it's largely like almost anthology. Like it's each season's kind of its own story. So like there are carryover characters. Like the only thing I was disappointed with season 3 is that Rafi's the only member of the main cast who carried over to the 3rd season. I mean, Laris we get briefly at the beginning in the 1st episode, but like there are a bunch of well, I guess seven. And my brain doesn't think of Seven as a Picard character, but she was a main character throughout the first 2 seasons, so it's like, yeah, okay. So Seven and Rafi are the only 2 Picard. Like there are a couple other characters from that first season who I really liked, and one of them with I'm not going to spoil the 2nd season. Well, actually, there's no way those characters could have come back. I guess that's true. The way the 2nd season ended, but it's still,
No, I get it, and I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
Like,
I guess
I get
on
why you
this,
can jump into season 3 because it does feel like they went like, okay, we did a Picard show for 2 seasons. Now we're just gonna do a swan song for next gen.
yeah, the thing that they literally that several of the cast members said they wanted after they were disappointed by how Nemesis turned out to get their own undiscovered country, which
Yeah,
I mean, right up to and including fighting a member of the plumber family. It's very good. Like,
I do have a copy of the director's cut on DVD of Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country in my office.
it's one of my favorite movies.
Well,
I made a
I had to
short
hunt
video
down
about
the
it.
director's cut.
Oh, really?
Well,
Okay.
because the DVD box set of the original series movies has the theatrical cut of 6. And I
Gotcha.
grew up,
Okay.
like, I had seen the theatrical cut of 6, but I grew up watching my VHS copy of 6, which is the director's cut, which, so, like, when I watched my DVD of 6, and I was like, okay, and they're going to do the thing and pull off, oh, that's not happening. We're just moving past that. Okay. That scene is not in this version. Okay.
Yeah,
We
that
lose that
is
reveal.
always
Okay.
weird.
I had to hunt down an at the time out of print DVD of the director's cut, that just because, like, I want to have the director's cut. I want the director's cut forever.
Yeah. I also I also have the director's cut DVD of that one. It's like it's one of my it's one of my favorite movies, and I don't know how much of it is just the quality of the film itself versus it was actually the first of the original series movies I saw,
Oh wow.
because when I was a child I did everything in exactly the wrong order.
No,
But
I think it's the best. Uh, it's been my favorite for a long time, and I watched those, like, I didn't watch them in exact order, because I think I saw Star Trek 4 before I saw Star Treks 1, 2, and 3. But because I grew up watching the original series, like, before Next Gen existed, right?
right.
My childhood was spent watching old episodes of, because remember, I was born in 1980, so when
Right.
little
Right.
Trey is 6 years old watching, 5 years old and 6 years old watching Star Trek the original series, The Next Generation does not exist. Um,
Right.
and so I saw Star Trek 4 in the drive-in, actually, ironically, at a drive-in that no longer exists, as a small child in the Chicago area.
Mm.
And that was the first Star Trek movie I ever saw. But then my parents, when we eventually got a VCR, we rented all of the early ones.
Okay.
And, like, because, it was Star Trek. We watched Star Trek. My parents are really interesting because it's like, I'm this massive nerd, right? Like, I'm obsessed with, like, every class of, I can tell you the difference between a Burrell and a Cavort class bird of prey. All right, like, it's I am very much, like, super hyper. Star Trek is my primary fandom. Will always be my primary fandom. I have multiple source books on my desk, including some Shane Johnson stuff, which not, it's non-canonical. Uh, but, like, and I know enough to be like, oh yeah, the technical manual's written by that guy. No, don't. They're not canon.
I would say I'm
You
someone
don't
who
see Michael
built
Okuda's name on the spine. Doesn't count.
I was someone really into building the model kits and stuff, and even I'm kind of left in the dust by you on some of
Yeah,
the
no, but
on a lot of
my
this
parents who
stuff.
introduced me to this stuff, they like Star Trek the way they like any other normal TV show that they watch.
Hmm.
They watch Star Trek. They didn't get into Lower Decks, but, like, they love Strange New Worlds. They watch Picard. They watch Discovery. Like, they don't watch Prodigy either. They don't watch the animated stuff right now, but, like, they are very much like, they watch Star Trek, but they watch it the way they watched The Good Wife. That's like,
Yeah, it's just another TV show
it's a show that they
that's
like, and they watch it, and they go, oh yeah, and you can have, like, a conversation about the characters with it. Like, they know what happened, but they're not, like, They're not like they're the same way with Doctor Who. The Doctor Who one's the funnier one because you do not expect people like you for American Doctor Who. Like there are two kinds of people usually with Doctor Who in America: people who are intensely into it, or people who have never watched an episode, and there's usually no in between. My parents, though, when they were young, when they were like first married, and so in the 70s, before they had kids, didn't have a lot of they didn't have cable. What's the 1970s, and they used to watch Doctor Who episodes on PBS because it was what they could watch. And so they got into watching Doctor Who on PBS rerun, like on PBS airings of it in like the late 70s, early 80s. And so they became these Doctor Who fans. And so they introduced me to old episodes of Doctor Who in the 80s as a kid. And I, of course, got weird and into it. And so it's like
the same thing happened. I not unlike that for my experience with a lot of the things my parents are into. I don't think my dad could tell the difference between a Constitution class and a Constitution refit, for example. But my parents were the ones who got me into watching Star Trek because it was something I could watch with them and got really into, and I got really into it in ways that I don't think they were prepared for.
Well, it's always funny. It's like growing up, my brother would talk to my dad about sports, and I'd talk to my dad about Star Trek. And it's funny. It's like my whole because I'm non-binary, but I blend with AMAB people pretty easily when I have to for survival, and I don't know anything about sports, so it's like my go-to. Trae has to pretend to fit in with guys is cars. My dad doesn't really. Even though my dad sold cars and he is knowledgeable about how they work, he's not that's not an interest he has. So it's like he knows about them, as a person who used to sell cars, professionally and things like that. And it's not like he's lost on it, but he doesn't if my dad had a fandom, I would say it's sports. You know what I mean?
No. That definitely makes sense to me.
Star Trek's the thing he likes. Because it's funny. I was like, oh, my dad's not into anything the way I am. And I was like, no, that's not true at all. It's not true at all. You get my dad talking about the Bears or the White Sox or the Bulls. He is full nerd. 100% nerd. It's just that he also likes other things, and it's like he's not full nerd about it. So I guess it isn't out of nowhere. It's just on I went full nerd about a less socially acceptable thing.
No, I definitely understand that. I guess I'm trying to think of where a lot of my nerddom tendencies came from. Early on, what I think it was is that even before I was really reading comic books, I loved making continuity connections between things.
Yeah.
The animated Marvel cartoons from the early 90s were shockingly interconnected when you really look at it. The Spider-Man from Spider-Man animated series was in the same universe with the X-Men from the X-Men animated series, which wasn't as weird because both of them were on Fox Kids, but also the Fantastic Four from the Fantastic Four cartoon, Iron Man from the Iron Man cartoon, and the Hulk from the Hulk show, that all three of those were syndicated, not contractually with the Fox network. All of those were in the same universe too. And I started noticing this because Nick Fury would show up. I'm like, I know that guy, and he's even played by the same actor. Okay. And I loved drawing those continuity things together. I just loved that kind of thing. And I
Yeah,
guess
but where
like
does the Avengers cartoon fall in?
that was years later,
Oh,
so
okay.
it was
I don't remember what year anything happened, and if it happened before 2000.
it was that one was after, and I know that because I had mostly grown out of Saturday morning cartoons and they were still
Mm-hmm.
airing it. See, one of the best worst things that happened to my fandom was when I discovered anime.
What do you mean
Like
grew
on
out of cartoons? Wait, I was wait. I was
okay,
you were
I'm
supposed to
going
grow
to
out of
explain
cartoons?
this.
Because I will
I'm
tell
going to
you, I
explain this.
watched the Avengers cartoon. It was like in high
I,
school.
I'm going to explain this. It's something I'm not proud of. I'm going to explain this one. When I discovered anime, I discovered like on the upside, this was something that was really cool for
How
me
old were
because
you
it
when you discovered anime?
when I first discovered anime, I was about 9 or 10.
Okay.
So like Baby Cele, on it was like Robotech was the gateway drug.
Yeah.
That's why I have such a complicated relationship with Robotech. Because I didn't really appreciate that Voltron was Japanese. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that, but Robotech, the soap operatic nature of it made me wonder why it was so different from other cartoons, and then I started finding out about this Japanimation thing, and I started getting into a lot more of this foreign animation stuff. And unfortunately, a side effect of that was that I started becoming a shitty elitist about it. So like Baby Nick was absolutely one of those shitheads who were like,
Okay.
it's not cartoons, it's anime. So I
Gotcha.
legitimately I am this is one of the things I'm most ashamed of in my fandom. I did not watch the Bruce Tim Paul Dini Justice League TV show until after I had graduated from college. The fact that I actually saw what is, in my opinion, to this day still the best adaptation of the DC universe happened because my wife was shocked that I hadn't seen it.
I just realized the Avengers cartoon didn't come out till '99, to like fall of '99. I was out of high school. I was in college.
Yeah, I was the only reason that I was even aware of it was I saw ads for it um on the bafflingly censored Fox Kids version of Escaflowne.
I,
Um,
well,
let me
they should have never licensed Escaflowne for Fox Kids. It's
license.
the censoring isn't the baffling part. It's the licensing it in the first place was the baffling part.
Well, yeah, because like they took a shojo, a hard shojo, isekai, romance anime that happens to feature giant robots,
Yep.
and tried to cut around it to make the love interest seem like the main character. If you're thinking this is a very bad idea, that's because it is. Incidentally, Nelvana, the same studio that had earlier animated those weird Star Wars cartoons, in the '80s, tried to do the same thing with Cardcaptor
Yeah, remember
Sakura.
Card Captors. Yeah.
Then they gave up on it like about halfway through the series because it is impossible to
Yeah.
make Sakura not the main character in that show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Fox Kids didn't actually finish running Escaflowne because it was just such a freaking lost cause. You like trying to. Von Fennell is a fine character, but he is not main character material. He's not. Hitomi is the main character of that story. Trying to cut it as if she's not is absolutely ludicrous, and trying to pretend this show that is built foundationally upon like a teenage girl's feelings and obsession with tarot cards, and to turn that into a show for 9-year-old boys is just not a great plan. But they tried it. That's a real thing that existed.
Sure did. Well, and it seems kind of funny that they did that because like shows like Sailor Moon were successful already at that point and had been successes while still being still geared towards ostensibly geared towards girls, although
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
knew
hell,
many non-girls who enjoyed Sailor Moon.
well, I mean, Sailor Moon is like the best
Fewer than I thought
example.
I did, as some have turned out not to be boys, but
Yeah, a
some have
bunch
turned
of
out
them
to be girls. But
just transitioned. Yeah, but no, you're like hell.
some of us
Sailor
stayed in the
Moon
middle.
was unashamed of the fact that it was a show about girls for girls. And remember, I mean, you might not remember this, but after it was in syndication, where it found new life was on Toonami, an action cartoon block, like just they just put it right next to Dragon Ball Z and Gundam Wing, and no one batted an eye. Like it was just part of the lineup.
Yeah.
I yeah, it's so weird to me that so many of these early attempts to localize anime were assuming that it was only a boys thing and trying to take these like girl focused properties and de-girlify it.
It's nuts. And we all wanted Bob Floy ice cream, but it will always stick out in my head. That and the one time there was like I think the English text was like a part of the with like lyrics to Danger Zone.
Yeah, Ami prints out what she says is files from NASA for one of her classmates, and if you look at it, it's just Danger Zone. It's
Yeah.
it's literally just the lyrics to Danger Zone. Gundam Wing did something similar. The There's like this big military plan that Trace Kushranada is unveiling, and it's like the terms of service screen from a Mac computer. It's really good.
Boy.
I explaining early explaining the Wild West of early anime localization is still so delightfully insane for me. Like I'm not saying all English dubs are great or amazing these days, but it still cracks me up when I see younger fans talking about how, oh, the English dub is never as good, and I'm just in this corner being like,
Have you seen
listen,
Venus Wars? I'm sorry. Have you
for
seen Venus Wars? That dub's
for your
amazing.
hey, actually, film
It's
preservation
fine.
cell has to point this out. The Blu-ray, the really nice special edition Blu-ray of the Venus Wars,
Mm-hmm.
does not have the original dub on it. They re-recorded the dub for Venus Wars.
I still have my VHS copy. It's okay.
It I actually really like that movie.
I unironically, it's not great. Like I don't know. I haven't watched. See, here's the problem. I haven't watched Venus Wars in over 20 years. I I haven't rewatched it since the 90s. So like 23 or 24 years, like is the last time I probably pulled out Venus Wars and watched it. And I love the mix of live action footage with animation that they do for some of the monobike scenes. I will always be angry about the name monobike.
I
I will
I
always be mad that they called it a monobike because, like, obviously, because motorbike, the bike is two. So when you're keeping the bike, the bi part of bike in the bicycle, it's they could have gone with. I mean, if it's mixing, Latin and Greek roots, they could have gone with monocycle.
mhm.
They call, like if they wanted to, but monobike as a term has bothered me since childhood.
I mean, I guess there's only so much that we can like blame on English not being Yoshikazu Yasuhiko's first language, but
But there is a line
um,
in the dub which will always stick out to me as the thing that I heard as a middle schooler going like, did they just say that? And that's why they call them scanties, and that will stick out in my head forever as this thing that I'm like, Did I just hear that line said out loud on Sci-Fi Channel?
Uh, you know, the director of Venus Wars was the same guy who wrote the manga, and he literally hasn't. He did after the Venus Wars, he did not direct a movie again until 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. He came out of retirement for an anniversary movie for Gundam because he was the character designer, animation director, and uncredited co-creator of the original series.
Wow.
So he directed a big old anniversary movie where the premise was that just this last year, where the premise was that they took the one episode that they outsourced to another studio where the visual fidelity was so bad that the other director forbid it from being released outside Japan. And they made a feature-length version of that episode. That was the other movie I saw in theaters last year.
Of course it was. Of course it was. I don't know. It's like Venus Wars. Like, I'm afraid to go back to it because I watched it so many times. Like, I know the movie really well, but I haven't watched it
last year, and I think it holds up.
It holds up. Good. Okay.
I think
well,
so.
I'll have to go back to it and watch it again because it's like, but it's such a like a period of like that was one of the first anime like when I was getting into anime, like and like wanted to get into anime, that was one of the because they put on that Sci-Fi Channel like block of like that with like Project A-ko, and like that. And
they ran Urusei Yatsura movie 2, and only movie 2. That was very strange. But that
I didn't see in that context. There was originally like there was a. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there were 3 films they showed. The first time Sci-Fi Channel aired anime. There were 3 in this marathon hosted by Ralph Bakshi. Because why is Ralph Bakshi hosting the anime marathon? He does animation, I guess. So it was
I'm kind of here for it. I'm not gonna lie.
I had this. You have to understand. I recorded this off of TV. So for years, I would just watch the versions I recorded off of TV on one VHS tape because I had them all recorded together. It was Project A-ko, Venus Wars, and Dominion Tank Police. Like, and so it was like the first Dominion Tank Police anime. So it was like those 3 things were aired together. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. And then Ralph Bakshi hosts like doing these like in between, like on the commercial breaks segments. And it is in fact where young Trae learned who Ralph Bakshi was. At the same time. I've still never seen Wizards.
Not missing much.
I know, but that's it.
See, I remember finding on the Sci-Fi Channel early in the morning. I found it was where I watched Galaxy Express 39, the movie, for the first time. And it was also the first time that there was a anime nudity scene that I had ever encountered. So that really threw me. I shared that on Famicom Dojo recently.
I watched the first time I ever saw Vampire Hunter D. I watched it with my mom.
Oh my god! Oh dear!
Just like at this one point, they got like there's full titties out, and I'm just like, oh god! Like I'm sitting in my parents' family room with my mother. We're watching this movie that I asked to rent because it was at Blockbuster.
Younger anime fans will never know the pain of watching Ranma tapes and having your parents come in just in time to see Ranma's tits.
There's Ranma's tits in like the second opening.
I know.
I also just like preyed on timing for my parents coming in when I would be watching a Ranma, because like the rest of the Ranma episode would be fine pretty much, but just that one shot of the opening, like the bath, I think is what it is with the like.
I think so.
Yeah, that still image. Yeah.
I don't. It's the second opening. It's like one of the ones I just don't remember very well.
Well, it's because the one I remember the best is the Yapapa opening,
Yeah,
the original.
yeah, the most iconic one.
Yapapa, yapapa, da 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 da. That my website in 1996 used to play a MIDI of that.
Oh,
I'm
God.
not kidding.
Speaking of Rumiko Takahashi, the first season or core, I guess, of the Urusei Yatsura remake just wrapped up last week.
Oh, okay. I haven't
It
watched
was
that. Yeah.
I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of love for the source material. Changes that were made were a lot of the changes were like pacing things of flipping up when characters are introduced
Okay.
or introducing particularly funny characters earlier, so that it's not meandering quite as much. So like Mendo is introduced way earlier in the new anime. And I think that's for the better. They got in Japanese anyway, they got an
Oh yeah, Mendo.
extremely
Yeah.
funny actor to voice him. Uh, um, so as a result, like unlike in the manga, like Mendo gets introduced before Benten or Oyuki.
God, I've got to like.
Or
It's been
yeah,
probably
it was
like
very
20 years since I read Urusei Yatsura manga, so I've got to like. My
okay.
brain is like going back and remembering characters. Like,
I had the other advantage of Viz has been putting out a new translation of the manga, and my wife has been reading it, and then I've
yeah.
been reading it after she's done with it, and it's
Well, it's like because I remember the characters, like but like if, I remember, and if like I just Googled and like pulled up the characters, like oh yeah, that guy. Um, like it's like the main cast, like Ataru Lum, Shinobu.
Mhm.
Like I remember those characters. Very easily. I remember Sakura. Like I remember but I don't remember every character name. So like it's like because I was reading manga, so it's like yeah that
Right,
guy who's that character type. I don't always remember and I read these mangas like 20 years ago. I read
right,
more than
exactly.
20 years ago in most cases. I read most of the Urusei Yatsura I read was like I read most of like a bunch of stuff in the 90s and then some in the early 2000s the like it was all borrowed manga from other people. Like I had
Mm.
friends who had like these large collections, and so but I didn't. It means that because I read someone else's large collections, even though I read a ton of Urusei Yatsura, like a ton of it, I don't own it. So I've never been able to go back to it. You know what I mean?
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. I
So did they
guess
make Ataru's characterization more consistent?
yeah.
That's my
Um,
main thing because he goes like in those initial issues like in the initial like start of that story he's like he seems much more like level and then like will just sometimes go weird and then like they like by he got flanderized, you know what I mean,
yeah,
like
no, he
it's
gets so much dumber in the in the early issues of Urusei Yatsura, he's very or Ataru is just annoyed. He's a lech, but he's not stupid. He's
right.
just frustrated. Whereas as the manga continues, he definitely gets dumber.
He gets so
Like
much dumber and maybe in canon you can say it's because he's been electrocuted that many times, but that's gotta affect your mental health at some point. But um, yeah, like because you go
um
to the initial story, it's like he's lecherous, but he's also like simultaneously more emotionally serious too.
yeah, yeah,
Like
absolutely. Um
like he's a much more balanced character in those really early stories, and then he just like they just play up like what was it was a significant part of his character, but it was only part of his character to being like the only part of his character,
and I'm
later on.
wondering how much of that was like I can't prove this per se, but like part of me wonders if at least a part of that was Takahashi reacting to her readership, in that like I when I read the first chapter of the manga, Like, we go back to
Yeah.
the whatever 1978 when it was first published or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I don't get the impression Lum was supposed to be in the comic after that one chapter. Like, she's not in the second chapter.
Yeah.
And then suddenly she becomes like the secondary lead. I don't get that impression from the really early parts of the comic. I feel like this is supposed to be
it's clearly supposed to be Ataru and Shinobu's story.
Yeah.
It's
and it's just
at the beginning, and
it's so popular.
Ataru starts out so much more relatable.
Also true.
Yeah. And then it turned into dumb clown hot girl, and then Shinobu pouting, and then eventually less Shinobu and less Shinobu.
Which is too bad. Shinobu's an excellent character because she's a much needed straight man to a bunch of psychos.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The remake, I think a lot of the decisions they made were good. Not every decision was gold, but most of them were. Animation is beautiful. One of the cutest things they decided to do is there are a lot of subtle nods to other things that Rumiko Takahashi has written. For example, whenever they're in English class, the teacher, Onsen Mark, has the students recite in English plot summaries of other comics by Takahashi. So like the kids will be like describing the plot of Ranma. Or like in the second to last episode, there was a joke that made me laugh very hard, which was Ataru going up to his room, getting out a manga. The manga is literally Maisani Koku.
Oh God!
Like, they make sure you can see the title is Maisani Koku, and as he's looking at it, he says aloud, "Man, this guy needs to learn how to make up his mind." And that killed me.
God,
I don't know. I thought that was very funny.
God, I remember, like, I've read so much Maisani Koku, but I forgot so much about it.
It's Rumiko's most grounded.
I remember it's like, yeah, it's very grounded. It's, you know, it's in the house and like thing, blah blah blah, blah, and I'm a drunk lady, whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, compared to her other stuff, you know, there's not aliens or like magic ponds or the lather, rinse, repeat of Magic Boyfriend that I think she's just going to do until she dies now. Thank you, Inuyasha.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's what she does now. But I can't be upset with her. She's like, for any gay anime fan from the 90s, Rumiko Takahashi is your aunt. You just, whether you realize it or not. She's
no. If Ranma One Half is very important to a lot of people.
It's very true. I don't know.
That's formative.
No, it really was.
Yeah, no, I'm same.
I know, that's why I said it.
I know.
The other formative one, or speaking of formative anime coming back, I had another one that I absolutely loved remake-wise this last season. Trigun Stampede just ended. Or at least its first season did. They definitely left it open and basically announced a second season.
Yeah.
That was really good. So it was a fully CG anime.
Okay.
But it's the studio that did Beastars, so it's a studio that knows what they're doing with CG.
I've never seen Beastars, so I just have to believe you.
Okay, well, Beastars is good. It's really deep and it's really thoughtful. But it also features horny furries, so it's not going to be for everybody. But it's one of the best anime on Netflix right now. I highly recommend it if you can deal with horny furries. If you're wondering why I'm bringing that up so much, it's because that is the show. All of the characters are anthropomorphic animals. All of them pretty much every named character has a sex life of one type or another. It's a lot, but it's that same studio. It's a lot. Trigun Stampede is a lot less horny. I'll say that. Um, and it's also interesting because it bucked that weird trend that I'm gonna blame on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, though I'm sure other anime have done this. Of if you do a remake, that means you have to make it 1-to-1 with the manga. And they didn't do that with Trigun Stampede at all. They redesigned a bunch of they redesigned all of the characters. They reordered a bunch of the events. Characters have different occupations now, backgrounds. Um, it's frankly, the pacing is way tighter than what was in the 90s anime.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's better than the manga too. It's just a really interesting, beautiful show. And if anyone, it's also the best argument against people who say CG anime is always going to be inherently bad, because the show is just gorgeous to look at. Any given scene, it's just amazing. And the last episode especially had a probably 5-minute straight fight scene that was not just choreographed well, but really leaned into the fact that they have digital sets and digital character models, so you can move them around like you're shooting a live action scene. And it was breathtaking.
Okay.
And all of that while giving the main character perfect trigger and marksmanship etiquette. So that was kind of cool. No, Trigun Stampede's so good. I'm kind of having Trigun brain rot these days. It's so good though. I'm gonna be real obnoxious when the second season comes out. I didn't have as much to say about that as I thought I would. I don't know. It's just really good. Go watch it. It's amazing. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
So like you don't need Crunchyroll. It's on Hulu. The dub brought back Johnny Young Bosch, the original Vash the Stampede. Unfortunately, every other character was recast, which does make me pretty sad because I'm also friends with half of that English cast, and all of them deserve to get more work. But yeah. It was extremely fun, and it's on Hulu. It's worth everyone's time.
Okay. Sorry, for some reason I have the Here's Greenwood theme, like end song, not the opening theme, the end theme going through my head.
The one that you named your convention after.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like that over dun 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 dun, like just going through. Like I was like it kicked into my just thinking about like old anime. Like I
haven't watched it yet. I've been meaning to, and I don't have an excuse anymore. I got it on a Right Stuff sale. Like,
oh yeah, the Right Stuff dub. Absolutely, that's what we watched.
Okay,
I've watched it both subtitled and dubbed. Because we watched it on Vink's Laserdiscs. And we watched it on Vink's Laserdiscs. And they had it would have the dub and the Japanese language as two different audio soundtracks, and then if you watched if you wanted to watch the subtitles, you just turned on closed captions.
Well,
that's how you did that back in the Laserdisc days.
I think that's another thing from early anime fandom that I think
you had to choose between dubs and subs.
Yeah, the dubs and subs debate mattered because, with an exception for Laserdisc, you had to like pick which tape you were going to buy. And the subs were always $5 more expensive.
$10 more expensive. $10 more expensive.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Shit.
Which was always like, yeah, but it takes less work. Yeah, but you got to pay for the rights to the audio for the Japanese version.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. That was when the subs versus dubs debate actually mattered. But also, like, when you wanted to get into an anime, you basically needed to know somebody.
Yeah.
You either you had to pay the exorbitant price for videos that you might be able to get at a comic book shop, or if you had a cool video store near you. And other than that, it was a lot like your Dungeons and Dragons group. Only your DM is the person spending that much money on all the books. And
Oh
it was
yeah.
kind of the same in early anime fandom, is that there was that person who would buy discs or tapes before discs and either invite people over or lend them out among friends.
Yeah. It's we would this guy I was friends with in middle school and high school named Brian Miles, who bought all this stuff and would like lend it to me, and like I'd get some stuff and also obviously lend it back, lend stuff to him when I'd have things, but he had so much more money than I did, like, so he would buy all this stuff, and like that's how I read so much of the manga that I read growing up, and I think he lent it to me so he'd have someone to talk about it with.
I absolutely did that with P. I was on I was on the tail end of that, and I was at Parker High School, circa 2006 or like 2005 through 7. I was the person who lent out the original Gundam movies, Samurai Champloo, and Full Metal Alchemist to people. Like, that was one of my quote unquote claims to fame at the time. Like, that very tail end of that being something that people
Yeah.
would even want, because even then, like, illegal downloads were becoming more and more of a thing, and
Yeah.
gradually we started getting companies actually figuring out that streaming was worthwhile.
Yeah.
and, and now that's turned into a nightmare where Crunchyroll monopolizes basically everything. Hooray!
Hooray. Okay.
Sorry, I kind of hijacked this and turned so much of it into what was it like to be an anime fan in the late 80s.
What do you mean hijacked? I was
Like,
fully involved. I was 100%. This is what happens when Gen's not here. And so, folks, for those
we
of
didn't
you
even
who
talk about Transformers. We missed an opportunity.
we did not talk about Transformers. You mentioned Bumblebee.
I did.
You did mention Bumblebee. It was in there.
Also, Earthspark is the best non-Star Trek reason to keep your Paramount Plus subscription. It's so freaking good.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Oh, it's so good. Danny Pudi is Bumblebee.
Ooh.
Alan Tudyk is Optimus Prime. The Megatron is Scottish, sad, and suffering of PTSD. He is not the bad guy of the show.
Okay.
He is trying to he's actually trying to like redeem himself. Yeah, it's really cool. It's pretty excellent. There's a non-binary transformer. And you better believe the people who have been whining, why do Transformers have genders in the first place, have for some reason lost their minds because a Transformer literally doesn't have a gender.
Yeah. I think last year's April Fool's Short Pact was about that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Friggin' this excellent character, Nightshade. No, it's insanely good, and there's only like I want to say like 24 or so episodes right now. Dietrich Bader plays the main human bad guy.
Okay.
It's an all-star cast. The animation's actually good. You have animators who are coming up with, if we're going to do fight scenes with alien robots who can transform their bodies, we're absolutely going to lean into that and have like half transformed fight scenes, or characters figuring out who they are. You have young Transformers picking their alt modes in a really gentle-handed allegory about puberty and dealing with that. It's just a really, 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 really good show, and more people should be looking at it because it's that rare thing that we have that like only things like Beast Wars and animated have really done that well, where they took a cartoon that was probably just meant to sell toys and actually made it about something. And I really hope it keeps up this quality because it's pretty amazing so far. There, I did end up talking about Transformers. Good job, Sele. Thank you.
I'm writing the description of the episode right now, and we're still recording
Okay,
it.
Yeah, no, but seriously, no, Earthspark is like the best reason to other than Star Trek to keep your Paramount Plus subscription. It's quite good. It's unlike most of the Michael Bay movies, it's also something that you can show to your children or watch with your children and not feel bad about. Sean Orange. So like
he's not listening anymore. He tuned out around Venus Wars
anymore. But like, you know what? At some point,
he stopped listening the moment we talked about Venus Wars.
Maybe the next time I'm on, maybe the next time I if I get to like bother the Famicom Dojo live stream again, maybe I will tell Sean to watch Earthspark with his kids because it's like it's really good and it is somehow simultaneously both something that you could watch with your kids and not feel bad, but still get a lot out of it yourself, like as a grown-up watching it, I guess.
All right. Let's wrap this up.
Let's do that. Yeah, I've been rambling for a while.
All right, so Vomithead Steve challenge, real quick.
Challenge.
Unaccepted. The Vomithead Steve challenge part of the show where I read part of a book and the challenge to listeners guess what book that is that I'm reading from. If you guess correctly, you get included in the Hall of Awesome. Benefits of the Hall of Awesome are as follows. 1, we put your name on the website. 2, as long as you're doing this challenge, you get your name listed in the episode. And 3, that is it. That is the whole list. All right. The current members of the Hall of Awesome are as follows. Arkham Zero, Rena Innocenti, Cheesy McDamu, Krista, Slither3D, Shameless Otaku, The Random Ramblings Man, Corefan, Capito, Chris Graham, Lillisaurus, Paper Godzilla, Cavsy, The Minnesota Librarian, Sean Orange, Keith Shizuo, Sakura Sunset, Joel Kreisman, Patrick Delahanty, Wendell Hartz, and Megsy Sass Council. And again, this is the final Vomithead Steve challenge, this book. It's whenever someone guesses this book, they get this. The first person to guess this book correctly, if they live in the lower 48 states of the United States, I will ship them the book. So I'm going to literally read the first line that I see here. The Ferengi immediately spring to mind. That is your line. If you know what book that's from, go to nerdandtie.com, click on the contact form, and tell us. And yeah, that can be your hopeful day. I don't know, man. If you have anything else you'd like to tell us too, we used to do a mailbag segment back in the day. It sure would be great if we did that again. Just go to nerdandtie.com, click on the contact form right up top. Use a little formy form, or if you go to the Nerd and Tie page on the website, under our shows, the Nerd and Tie podcast, there's also the comment, the mailbag form is on that page too. And tell us what your thoughts are, what your hopes are, what your dreams are, why we should be more organized when Gen's not around, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Miss Gen.
Miss Gen too. We have to see when Gen's here, we have to stay on task because we feel bad if we're making Gen listen to us. Ramble on about this stuff. You know, just so I guess we should probably walk us towards the end of the show here. I'm Trae Dorn.
I'm Celeste Star Twin.
Remember, you can subscribe to the show on anywhere that podcasts are found in your real life, like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcast, other places. And you can always find subscription links at nerdandtie.com, along with all the other shows on the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network, like Famicom Dojo, which does lots of cool stuff involving Famicoms, but not dojos, oddly enough. They're not here to fight you and take the sign of your Famicom dojo. They just want to invite you into their Famicom dojo so you can learn at their not really a dojo.
I'll challenge Sean and Vink so I can take their sign.
Yes. And I just realized what I was referencing with that, and I probably shouldn't have. Okay, moving forward. Remember, you can follow this show on social media. We're technically at Nerd and Tie on Twitter, and that gets updated automatically from our website, so I guess that's still happening. And we're on Tumblr, nerdandtie.tumblr.com, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdandtie. And remember, you can support us financially by sponsoring the show. Nerdandtie.com, click on sponsor our shows right up top, and you can support me financially directly at patreon.com/TRAEGORN. You can support Celeste at patreon.com/CelesteIsBest. And Gen, who's not here, you can buy stuff at Ocelot Dude Designs. I'd ask Gen what's in the shop, but Gen's not here, so Gen can't tell me what's in the shop, so just trust me, it's some neat shit. All right, remember, in your hearts, in your minds, in those places that you sit in the darkness late at night, hoping, praying that someone out there is listening, the answer is, we're not. This is a pre-recorded podcast. You're listening to us. That's how this relationship works.
And remember, ga ga ga, ga ga ga, gow guy gar. Keep on spocking in the free world.
And I say, keep on spocking anywhere you can, free or not. We're all prisoners of our minds.
Whoa. Well, brave. Unique.
I'm wearing slippers.